Good evening. I'm Jackie Norris, and it's so great to see all of you this evening. I don't know about you, but I am so excited to be here at the Champions of Justice 2021 Interfaith Action Fund Celebration. And indeed, it is a celebration. And I know after a long day, many of you might actually have been up at the statehouse. Indeed, we are here to celebrate and lift up all the great successes that this great organization has done. Before we begin, it is my honor to introduce the fearless leader of this great organization, Connie Ryan. Connie, welcome.
Thank you so much, Jackie. I am so excited to be sitting here side by side on screen anyway with you. And I am so thankful and grateful that you are helping to host the Action Fund celebration this year. Of course, I really miss folks. I would much rather be in a room enjoying the company of all of our amazing supporters, but we had to go virtual, and that's how it is this year and last year. But I want to thank everybody for joining us tonight.
And I don't know about you, but I know that at some of the receptions in the past, we've had a little bit of fun. And so I've got my tumbler, and we'll talk just a little bit about this. And Connie does too. So Connie, here's a virtual toast. There we go. We'll try and figure that out. Okay, great. This work would not be possible without all of the sponsors. And so I want to make sure as you joined, you saw the list of people that help sponsor the great work of the Action Fund. At the end, you'll see the sponsor list again. But that funding is critical to the work that takes place at the statehouse, not the steakhouse. And what I want to make sure you know is if you haven't already pledged, if you haven't already given, it is your opportunity to do it. And I feel like Vanna White, for a wonderful contribution of $25, a recurring contribution of $25 or more, you can get one of these awesome tumblers. So you'll see in the chat, they'll keep giving you prompts on how to do this. But if you want to give $25 or more, we will send you a tumbler, and they come in 2 different colors. So you get to choose. All right. So Connie, we have a lot to talk about tonight, and Connie has graciously agreed to let me ask her some questions and interview her as we celebrate the Champions of Justice. And one of the things I'm really curious about is how this all started for you. So I want you to take a step back. I want you to think about the first time that you put your faith into action. How did you get involved in this, and what did faith in action look like for you years ago?
Well, really the first memory that I have of faith in action was far beyond before Interfaith Alliance. I was asked to help with a project at my church, and we were doing a petition against a company that was doing some really awful things around the world, and so at the age of 15 or 16, I don't really remember, they put me in charge of this project, and it was my faith in action, and it was protecting children and babies, which is, at my heart, and was even then. And so, I grew up with parents that taught us to take our faith to the street, so to speak, and be in action. So clear back then, and way back then. So it was very natural when I joined Interfaith Alliance 19 years ago, and put my faith in action in a different way. And I love politics, and my faith is a core of who I am. And so the two combined was just a natural fit for me.
I love that. It's a great early memory. And I'm sure everybody that's listening has their own early memory of advocating for something that's important to them. So tonight's theme is Champions of Justice. My question to you is, how did you come up with that theme?
Well, we really knew that it was going to be a challenging year, so we kind of decided on the theme early winter, late fall, early winter. And so we knew it was going to be a challenging year, and we knew that the progressive voice was going to be critically important. And we always do our work in partnership with individuals and with organizations, great ally groups at the State House, and they all really are champions of justice. And so it just kind of became that piece of it, and naming that. And then we just really wanted to honor a few of those folks. There are so many champions of justice out there doing really good work, both individuals and organizations.
And preview a little bit of what we're going to see tonight. I can't wait for you to tell us just a little bit about, tease it for us.
Yeah, I'm so excited. We have just some really amazing advocates and champions of justice. So we have advocates from the Episcopal Diocese of Iowa, Bishop Alan Scarf and Reverend Wendy Abrahamson. And then ally organizations that we work with on a daily basis. And so Mary Jane Cobb and Melissa Peterson from Iowa State Education Association, Keenan Crow from One Iowa, Jamie Birch Elliott from Planned Parenthood Advocates of Iowa. And then I am so excited. We have this rock star legislator that you all know of, Representative Roz Smith from Waterloo. And they all are progressive leaders that we work with as an organization. We work with day in and day out at the State House and on the issues that are so core and so important to this organization.
That's great. I can't wait. And I love, there's some comments coming through on the screen, and I hope other people can see them because they're kind of fun. But if you have anything you want to share about your why or how you got involved and how you lived faith in action or anything like that, don't be shy and put some comments in there. They're fun for everybody else to see. So now it's my pleasure to introduce Jean Swenson. Jean Swenson is the board chair of the Interfaith Alliance of Iowa Action Fund, and she's going to tell us a little bit about the work that the fund is doing these days.
Thank you for joining us this evening. I'm Jean Swenson. I'm the chair of the Interfaith Alliance of Iowa Action Fund. Like you, I wish we were all together tonight, sharing those great hors d'oeuvres and having wonderful table talk with one another. I am confident, however, that Connie and Bridget and Kristen have come up with a great evening of events planned for us. Thank you so much for joining with us. And we are especially honored with the many legislators that have joined us, as well as Jackie Norris. I want to begin by saying thank you so much to those of you who have so generously supported the work of Interfaith Alliance of Iowa's Action Fund over the years. You know, every year we tell you that we need to have our voices heard at the Capitol, that this is the most important year ever. But I really believe this may be the most important year ever. It seems that there's a lot of extremist legislation being passed at breakneck speed, and it's hard to keep up with, so I'm so very happy that we have Connie doing some lobbying for us, and I'm also so thankful that you are supporting her financially. If you haven't given to the Action Fund, I would encourage you to do so tonight, and you may even want to consider signing up to be a monthly donor to the organization. We are very fortunate to have several legislators in our midst tonight. Thank you for choosing to spend the hour with us. We know you have work that needs to be done and that you'll continue to work when you have exited this opportunity. We appreciate your progressive voices at the Capitol. We appreciate your courage. Thank you for showing up day after day when it must be really difficult. In these very interesting times, I am so glad to be associated with the Interfaith Alliance of Iowa, where our mission statement is, Interfaith Alliance of Iowa celebrates religious freedom by championing the rights of individuals, by promoting policies that protect both religion and democracy, and by empowering diverse voices to challenge extremism. I'm one of those people who reads new legislation daily, and I, again, am so happy to be represented by Interfaith Alliance Action Fund each and every day, while Connie champions the rights for all Iowans, Black, Indigenous people of color, LGBTQ persons, women, public school children, people of faith and no faith, all Iowans. We need her to continue to challenge extremism. And I so appreciate the learning opportunities that Interfaith Alliance gives us. Moral Mondays, where we learn about specific legislation and how that affects our lives, as well as the weekly legislative update where Connie gives us lobbying tips. Now more than ever, our voices need to be heard because so many other organizations have had to cancel their lobby days because of safety. I appreciate Connie's voice of reason, and she's able to cut through the noise and the half-truths. Yes, this is a night to celebrate Interfaith Alliance of Iowa Action Fund and all of the good work that we do. We're able to do this work because of you. Again, if you have not given financially to this event, we sure hope that maybe tonight's the night that you're able to do that. We do appreciate your support. Most of us realize that good things aren't free. This is a good thing. Enjoy the evening. Thank you for coming. Thank you for your support. It really does make a difference. Enjoy.
Thank you, Jean. That was great, and I enjoyed listening to her words. I want to turn now to learn more about what's happening at the State House. Now, I know some of you may be feeling a little down, a little bit worried about all that's happening in our State House. But remember, we are celebrating champions of justice tonight. And I hope if you are trying to stay abreast of all of the things that are happening, that you, if you haven't already, sign up for legislative updates that the Interfaith Alliance of Iowa Action Fund puts together. So if you're interested in that, in the chat, there's an opportunity for you to sign up for those legislative updates. What I want to do is I want to hear from Connie a little bit more. I believe, Connie, you are going into your 11th session, and no doubt every session is a little different. So I'd love for you to talk about, make some comparisons for us. How does this session compare to other experiences you've had in the past decade almost?
Jackie, I started with Interfaith Alliance 19 years ago, as I said earlier, and I dabbled in lobbying a little bit. We had a contract lobbyist, and so she would have me come up every once in a while when there was a particularly important bill for me to speak on or to talk with the legislator. And in 2011, I began lobbying as the full-time lobbyist for the organization. Both of our boards decided it was important to have a steady voice up there and a steady presence at the State House. And so I started in 2011. You'll remember that's when the Tea Partiers came into being, and I thought, oh my gosh, this is crazy, but I didn't know what was ahead of us. And normally I'm at the State House every day that the legislature is there. I am there, and I get there. My colleagues will tell you I get there before 7 o'clock in the morning, and I'm there until late in the afternoon, sometimes into the evening, as lobbyists often are because of how that cycle happens at the State House. This year with COVID, it has changed everything, and particularly because protocols have not kept people safe. And so it's changed how we do things, and not being able to be there every day like I want to be. And then on top of that, there is just this enormous amount of egregious, horrible legislation that is harmful to Iowans. And so it breaks my heart, really, that I can't be there every day doing the work. So we have shifted. We are still that same strong voice as has always been. We're just doing it differently. And so taking advantage of technology, taking advantage of email, and really at the core of what Interfaith Alliance of Iowa Action Fund is anyway, are the voices of people like the folks that are on the celebration tonight, me being at the State House is important, and having that presence and having that face. But what is most important are the voices that of folks who are emailing their legislators and calling their legislators, and making sure that there is a progressive voice that is pushing back on a lot of this really dangerous legislation.
It's a great point, and I'm glad you bring up that everybody should continue to communicate with their legislators. It's interesting when you're represented by a Democratic legislature or a Democratic legislator. Sometimes you're inclined to not. You kind of think that they know, right? That they're going to support your viewpoints. It's really important to share it regardless of their political affiliation. And so, Connie, can you talk a little bit more about specifically what the Action Fund is doing this year to impact certain legislation? Maybe you want to pick out a particular piece, or just talk a little bit more about the current legislative session.
Yeah, as folks know, our agenda, if you will, at the State House is huge. It's incredibly broad. And so we work on public education and making sure that our public schools are strong. We work on voting rights, reproductive health care, gun safety, LGBTQ plus rights, immigration rights, religious exemptions, fighting against religious exemptions, racial justice issues, really anything that is related to civil rights and equality, equity, justice. Those are the main areas of our work. And so engaging folks in that work is critically important. So, we have a legislative update that I send out mostly Fridays. I think we had one Saturday this session, and just lines out all of the legislation that is most critically important and how folks can take action. So we've really been focusing a lot this year on some public education bills and contacting their legislators. And the thing that I would also say is, don't assume just because your legislator is of the same political party that you are, that they are on the same side. You should verify that. But also, you may have some arguments that they haven't thought about. And so it's also important that you express to them, especially as their constituent, why you are opposed to something or why you are for something. They want to hear your voice as their constituent. And so it's important to make those contacts.
Yeah, it's a great point. I don't know how many of you on the phone, maybe you have school-age children. I have 3 teenagers, and I feel like the past year, but more the past month and a half, I keep looking at my kids and saying, this is not normal. The things that we are seeing, the type of harsh legislative solutions that are being recommended, this is not normal. And you need to speak up, just like I need to speak up, just like everybody needs to speak up more than ever. So thank you for sharing that. We now get to hear from somebody that's both a friend, but also a great legislator that is doing amazing things, sent to us from Waterloo, Representative Roz Smith. It's now my honor to highlight Roz Smith, Representative Roz Smith, as a champion of justice in the Iowa legislature for civil rights, racial justice, and public education.
Hi, I'm State Representative Roz Smith. As chair of the Iowa Legislative Black Caucus, I'm so proud of the progress that we made last year with the plan for a more perfect union. But the fight for social justice extends far beyond police reform. And yes, it's true that race does play a significant role in how systemic inequities impact us all, which means that our pursuit for real justice is about our common struggles. Our outcomes only realized when we truly believe that what's good for the least of these uplifts us all. The work, though, is not easy. We have to collectively push for greater access for all Iowans, access to well-funded public schools that prepare our students to be globally competitive and critical thinkers that were empowered to debate the 1619 essays and the works of Mark Twain. It's about affordable health care for the most vulnerable populations and making labor and delivery services accessible for those who want to start their families in rural Iowa. Understanding that the consequences of climate change touch us all. But unified, we can make significant gains towards building stronger communities that not only withstand a derecho, but become stronger when the skies clear. This is the Iowa that I believe in and that I fight for. The heritage of our state has roots in social justice, and I'm so glad to have strong partners in the Interfaith Alliance of Iowa at the state capitol. Always a strong progressive voice reminding us not to be siloed by our faith, but to embrace the true teachings of unity, equity, and service. The work of the Interfaith Alliance is critical as we continue to strive for a better, more inclusive Iowa. Thank you.
Great. Thanks, Roz. We really appreciated hearing from you and appreciate all the fight that you're bringing to the State House these days, as well as all of the other legislators who support the Interfaith of Alliance agenda. So now it's time to talk about empowerment and speaking up. And I will tell you that if you need an example of a way to speak up right now, you actually can sign a petition. That talks about your opposition to trying to remove the 1619 curriculum, HF 222, from the schools around the state of Iowa. I hope you've listened to it. If you haven't, you should. I'm on my second time, and I'm actually listening to it now on Sunday mornings with my family. And as a former government teacher, every school should be listening to this and hear this perspective. So in the chat, you can see how to sign the petition opposing the removal of the 1619 curriculum. So please do that. That's a great way for you to act right now. Okay, we get to talk about empowerment. And as Connie talked about, it's not just the legislators, it's not just her and the staff of the Action Fund, it's not just the board members, it's Iowans from across the state that are willing to step up and advocate and share their voice. So Connie, I'd love for you to, first of all, tell us a story. I love hearing stories of how the Interfaith Alliance and what you do to empower Iowans to get up there at the State House. So tell us a story.
So one story that comes to mind is Representative Marty Anderson. She approached myself and Erin Davison-Rippey, who was with Planned Parenthood at the time, about 7-8 years ago. And she had gone to a conference and she had learned about Moral Mondays. Many folks are familiar with Moral Mondays that Reverend William Barber started in North Carolina. And she heard about that and she brought that idea back to us and she said, I want to do Moral Mondays in Iowa, and how can we do that? So we kind of put our heads together. It looks different in Iowa, but Moral Mondays, it happens almost every Monday of the legislative session. It's a different issue with a different legislator and expert talking about legislation. Today, we just talked about childcare. Next week, we're going to talk about unemployment and labor issues. We've talked about reproductive rights. We've talked about just a whole host of things. And but it really was because Representative Anderson, Interfaith Alliance of Iowa, Planned Parenthood, we have these great relationships and we work together. She knew who to come to, and so we put that together. This is our 7th session of doing Moral Mondays and tackling different issues. And what it does is teaches folks about the issues, but also how they can use their voice. And so there's a woman that was part of that, has come to that almost all of the time. And she has become this super advocate. And we don't have her on today, and I should have had her. But she's learned how to navigate the Capitol. She sends out almost her own legislative updates, and she is just super engaged. And part of that came from Moral Mondays and learning the process and learning how to be a strong advocate and really making a difference on behalf of Iowans.
I love that. That's a great story. And as I was listening to you, I was thinking about silver linings, as we all should, with COVID. And my hope is that if there's a silver lining with COVID, maybe it's how people all across the state, not just that live in Iowa, are lobbying, telling their story, accessing their legislators. And I'm wondering if you can think of that, if you can think of any example or any way when you're doing your trainings, are you finding an increase in statewide voices in the conversation this year?
Yeah, being online actually has really facilitated that, right? And not only with our Action Fund, but with our C3 work as well, our education work as well. And I miss people. I miss being with people, but being online has really allowed folks to connect and not have to come to Des Moines and not have to travel to events and trainings and those kind of things, so they can connect with us in an easier way. And it really has exhibited for me how strong and how broad our network is as an organization. We are people of faith and people of all beliefs from really all over the state, and that has really expanded this year. We are in cities and towns, small communities, and large faith leaders and clergy, people of faith, and just community leaders. And what brings us together is that collective belief in equality and equity and fairness. And whether or not you have a faith affiliation or not, it's people who believe that religious freedom, protecting religious freedom, but that religious freedom can't be used to discriminate or to harm people, and that they're willing to stand up and use their voice against some of those extremist voices. And I really believe that our superpower, if an organization has a superpower, I really believe that it is that breadth and strength of our supporters and our advocates across the state.
Yeah, I really appreciate you saying that, because it's, as I was thinking about your unique value proposition, you are positioned as an organization to pull in lots of different people from different faith denominations or others around justice issues. So I think you're right. You have a unique opportunity and you are seizing the moment.
Yeah.
So we get to celebrate two really amazing leaders as champions of justice. It's my pleasure now to introduce to you Bishop Alan Scarf and Reverend Wendy Abrahamson as champions of justice for their advocacy at the State House.
Thank you so much for being recognized as Episcopalians in Iowa as champions of justice. I think we're a small church in numbers, but we really can be found on the front foot in so many areas of justice, whether it's Black liberation movement or whether it's penal reform, prison reform, human trafficking, mental health issues, immigration issues, all of the different things that pertain to people's human dignity and rights, women's rights, rights of LGBTQ persons. You'll find Episcopalians on the front of those struggles all over. And so thank you for recognizing that. We do it, my name is Alan Scarf, I'm the Bishop of the Episcopal Diocese here in Iowa. And I want to mention just two of the major arms by which we fulfill the call to the gospel for peace and justice and truth. The first is the Beloved Community Initiative, which is founded as a partnering community to partner with the community in Iowa City and the diocese. And their aim is, the Beloved Community Initiative says its aims is to be a place that helps people grow as reconcilers, builds their capacity to become justice makers, and offers a space for healing from the damage that racism inflicts on all people. The church does this as a partnership with the community and started with one-on-ones with the community, asking, where are the needs? Where can we come alongside and support? And the other arm is what we call Faith in Action, and that's led by Wendy Abrahamson, along with Marcus Hack and Lizzie Gilman, who work as our lobbyists in the state house. And so I want to hand over to Wendy at this time to tell us more about Faith in Action.
Thank you, Bishop Alan. And I want to also give thanks for being recognized as champion of justice. We really appreciate it. Iowa Interfaith Alliance is an essential part of what we do. And when I first asked Bishop Alan about 4 or 5 years ago if he would like a public policy and legislative ministry in our diocese? And he said yes. I was quickly put in touch with Connie. And Connie Ryan really helped me learn my way around the State House as much as I could as a part-time volunteer lobbyist. And she continues to be really, really important to our ministry today. As the bishop said, we call it Faith in Action. And basically, we try to keep Iowa Episcopalians who are interested informed on legislation as it's making its way through the State House. And then we offer suggestions on getting in touch with their legislator and letting them know whether they would like them to support or oppose a bill. And we pick a number of subjects to follow, as the bishop listed some of them. And then we try to let our lawmakers know. Once a year, we have a gathering at the State House where Iowa Episcopalians can learn about the status of certain pieces of legislation and then have an opportunity to lobby their own lawmaker. It's really been a meaningful ministry. And Interfaith Alliance of Iowa and the Action Fund have been a really, really important hand in all of that. In fact, when I offer updates on legislation to Faith in Action, very often I forward the really outstanding legislative updates that Connie writes. Her dedication and her steadfastness and her commitment to justice are inspiring and a really important part of the ministry that we do. So thank you to Iowa Interfaith Alliance. I also want to offer a thanks again here to my bishop, because in the Episcopal Church, any ministry really stands or falls on the support of a bishop. And ours is not only supportive, he is involved. He shows up at our lobby days. He pays attention to legislative issues. He meets with me and our other lobbyists at the beginning of the legislative season to talk about the subjects that we're going to try to follow. And I'm really grateful for his support. I'm also really grateful for the close to 500 Iowa Episcopalians who follow our Facebook page. Many of them now sharing information about legislation and bills on their own to it. It's been a really, really wonderful form of communication for all of us. And I'm grateful to everybody that's had a part of it. And again, many thanks to Connie Ryan and the Interfaith Alliance of Iowa Action Fund for everything they do, their leadership and sharing of information, making a lot of what we do possible. So I want to give it back to Bishop Allen.
And let me add also my thanks to Connie for your leadership and inspiration and for keeping us moving forward when often we can get weary in this task. I've been thinking about why am I involved in things like this? And I realize it's because of in some ways because of what our prayers call us to. When we pray for the poor and we pray for the needy and we pray for justice and we pray for truth, often it's things like gun violence that's getting in the way. It's different kinds of actions that might be discriminatory that's getting in the way. And so we turn our prayers into politics and our politics into prayers. So thank you for this great honor today.
Thank you, Bishop Scarf and Reverend Wendy Abrahamson. I was just letting that sink in a little bit. We turn our prayers into politics and our politics into prayers. That was a really significant quote. So maybe everybody could reflect on that just a little bit and appreciate that. And Libby Slappy, by the way, tell your kids we said hi. The high school government teacher is very proud. So Connie, you are known for being a great collaborator. In addition to other things, being fierce and, aggressive and all those great, respectable words. But collaborations don't always come easy. And that's what this section is all about, right? Because everybody's got their own agenda. And so I'm wondering if we're going to talk a little bit more about collaborations, but in your mind, why is Interfaith Alliance of Iowa, the Action Fund, why are collaborations so important, and what matters in a good collaboration in your mind?
Yeah, we have always collaborated with partner organizations, ally organizations. It really is almost part of our DNA, if you will. And I don't think personally, I don't think that you can do advocacy work. I don't think you can do effective advocacy work if you're not collaborating with other folks who come from different perspectives but have a stake in the game. It is just so critically important to have different viewpoints that come at an issue in different ways. And so that looks different on every issue. We might be working with these 3 or 4 organizations on this, and then maybe one of them comes with us on this, and then there's 2 others that come with that. And it is just, we are very intentional about finding those partners that want to be part of this and that bring something to the table, even if they don't exactly know it yet sometimes. And it's important to have different voices. And I am so grateful to all of the partner organizations that we work with day in and day out on, just as I talked about earlier, just that spectrum of issues, not just faith organizations, but labor and education and civil rights and business, and just an enormous amount of relationships that we've built over the years.
Yeah, you have a really great common denominator around justice. Yeah. And I think that feeds a lot of your collaborations. I was thinking, I want to go back to one thing we talked about, and that's Moral Mondays. That's probably another way where people can learn more about other collaborating organizations, I'm sure. So if you want to know more about Moral Mondays, make sure you sign up for them and consider joining them on when they're offered, because I think it's a great way to learn about issues, and not just about the issue, but different perspectives. And, remember, we all have blind spots. And I think it's very important that even when we're with like-minded organizations, we see issues from multiple sides, and every issue is multifaceted. So it's a great way for you to globalize your thinking. So you have some great organizations you're going to tell us about, Connie, as Champions of Justice. So I'm going to turn it over to you.
Yeah, I am so excited. And before I do that, I should say, when I talked about Moral Mondays before, that is a collaborative action, actually. It is not just Interfaith Alliance. It's almost 30 organizations that have agreed, and that number has ebbed and flowed, but currently just about 30 organizations that have agreed to have that work together to bring that progressive voice around issues of equality and fairness and justice to the State House and to empower folks in the work that they do. So I'm glad you brought it up again, because I don't think I said that earlier, but that is a collaboration itself. But the organizations that we want to highlight today, tonight, are 3 amazing partner organizations that we work with all the time, and on issues that are really core and critical to the organization, to the Interfaith Alliance of Iowa Action Fund. And so you're going to hear from Mary Jane Cobb and Melissa Peterson from Iowa State Education Association, which is the teachers union. And we do so much work on public education and making sure we have strong public schools, and that the teachers and staff are supported in that. And ISEA is one of the most important voices in our state on public education issues. And then you're going to hear from Keenan Crow from One Iowa and Jamie Birch-Elliott. They teamed up from Planned Parenthood Advocates of Iowa. Again, key organizations that we work with day in and day out, and just the voices of Keenan and Jamie at the State House, Melissa Peterson from ICA at the State House. We could not be as effective in our work if we did not have those partner organizations. And so I'm excited for you to hear from Mary Jane and Melissa Peterson.
Good evening, everyone. I'm Mary Jane Cobb. I'm the Executive Director of the Iowa State Education Association, and I'm delighted to be here with you, even if it's just in a virtual setting. Education has been under attack this session at the Capitol, And I'm going to turn to our lobbyist and government relations specialist, Melissa Peterson, to fill you in on the details. Melissa?
Thank you so much, Mary Jane. Yes, this session has already been a doozy. And as we record this video, we are only in week 5. But so far, in the 5th week, or by the 5th week of this legislative session, we have seen proposals that would weaponize the appropriations process for our public schools. We have seen proposals to prevent trans students from using the bathroom of their gender identity. We have seen policies to try to identify the political ideology of professors, and the eradication of the tenure system in our community colleges and also our Regents universities. Education in general is under attack. One of the biggest attacks that we have been experiencing so far in the 89th General Assembly is the proposal of the Governor's Education Omnibus Bill. And the first division of that bill relates to the creation of a voucher program that would provide an opportunity for a subset of our student population to utilize taxpayer dollars to go to private and religious schools. And this has been a very long fight so far in these 5 weeks. And while we've seen similar legislation before, it feels different this time. This time it feels like it has legs. And the idea that our state would move in a direction where under its current voucher proposal, we would be spending more new money on incentivizing attendance at private and religious schools than the proposals that are being made in terms of spending new money on public schools that serve nearly 500,000 students, by the way, has been very, very challenging. What has been helpful in this conversation, however, is knowing that we have strong allies and champions that support our public education professionals and our public school students. In this fight, we thankfully have warriors like Connie Ryan, representing the Interfaith Alliance of Iowa, who can help to highlight how this is just a terrible proposal for Iowa in general, but for our public school system in particular. And so it's more than just the teachers union, the Iowa State Education Association, standing up and saying that this isn't right for Iowa. It's great to have someone who can talk about how, frankly, private and religious schools don't have to accept every single student as our public education system does. They don't have the same accountability and transparency. An organization that can help highlight the discriminatory practices that can sometimes happen or take place in the employment of folks at a private and a religious school. So things like that are some of the wonderful assistance and support that we get from the Interfaith Alliance of Iowa. And we are just so thankful that we have someone working with us side by side in the trenches, especially on these important and harmful issues to public education.
That's right. When we look at issues and we go into conversations with lawmakers about funding or about the diversion of funding into private schools, we're looked at as advocating for our own self-interest. Now, our self-interest is that of educators, public educators and their students, but it is so critically important for them to hear from people outside the education profession about these issues as well. And that's where you all come in. The Interfaith Alliance of Iowa Action Fund and Connie Ryan and all of the amazing members and supporters that reach out to lawmakers and make public comments and make statements and write letters to the editor. The work that you do really sends a clear message that what we're saying is true and that we're not in this alone. And for our members that have had a really tough year, it sends the message to them that they're not alone too. So while Melissa and I are both individual supporters of Interfaith Alliance and are proud to be that way, we are glad as an organization, ISEA, can partner as well. So thank you all. Thank you very much for what you do on our issues and on the myriad of other issues we all care so much about.
Hey everyone, Keenan Crow here. I use they, them pronouns, and I'm the Director of Policy and Advocacy over at One Iowa. And with me, I have...
I'm Jamie Birch Elliott. I use she, her pronouns, and I'm the Director of Public Affairs at Planned Parenthood Advocates of Iowa.
Awesome. And we're here to talk to you about being champions of justice today, which I assume means that we work toward social justice for everybody in the community, not just for a few.
We do. So at Planned Parenthood Advocates of Iowa, You also, you might hear us say Planned Parenthood North Central States. We advocate for abortion rights and also in general access to sexual and reproductive health care. So STI testing and treatment, birth control, gender affirming health care, and a whole host of other reproductive health care things. What do you do over at One Iowa, Keenan?
Yeah, we work toward full equality for LGBTQ Iowans, and that looks like a lot of things. We also work on healthcare issues. We also work on education issues, and our paths cross a whole lot there. But also making sure that people aren't being discriminated against in their employment, in educational opportunities, in just being able to, go down the street and get a sandwich. We want to make sure that everybody has an equal opportunity to do that.
I can't even believe that we have to be doing this in this day and age. And yet here we are. We work on a lot of these issues together. None of these issues exist in a vacuum, right? We're all fighting the same systems of oppression, and it's those systems of oppression that bring us to have to advocate for the things that our respective organizations do advocate for. So, obviously we named some of the same things in our advocacy. So, to folks at the Interfaith Alliance, you might know that we collaborate with you all there and with one another pretty much on a daily basis.
Yeah, this work is gigantic, right? Like, it's not just one or two bills. It's 14 anti-LGBTQ bills. There's the abortion amendment. There's all sorts of other separation of church and state issues. There's making sure young people are informed about their bodies and their health care. All of that stuff is not something that one organization can do. And that's why we need folks like Planned Parenthood, like One Iowa, like Interfaith Alliance of Iowa, ACLU, all those organizations kind of working together in concert. That's the only way that we make it out of here with most of our rights, right? Like, it's literally a fight to maintain just kind of basic human dignity up at the Capitol, and it takes all of us to do that.
It definitely does. We also do things like make sure elections continue to be free and fair and accessible for everyone. We make sure that the justice system functions as adequately as possible. Both things that have been under attack pretty much every legislative session. And, we couldn't do it without each other. Like Keenan said, these issues are big and they're broad and it's hard. And honestly, if we didn't work collaboratively with one another, I don't know how we'd get through the day. Not only are Keenan and Connie some of my favorite colleagues, but they're my friends. And so, not only is our relationship professional, but we've really gotten to know one another. And, I think that our coalition is like a family in some way. I honestly could not do my work without the Interfaith Alliance and without One Iowa.
Yeah, same. I don't know where we would be without our coalition partners, not nearly in as good of shape as we're in right now, which is, a pretty high bar, unfortunately. So yeah, I would encourage you all to just be extremely generous, open your wallets and your hearts to this organization. This helps us so much at the Capitol, having a presence, having Connie there, being able to bounce ideas off of each other. That's all essential work, and it has to continue. If it doesn't, we're going to be in a much worse situation than we are right now, and we're already in a fairly rough spot.
Agree 100%. When you donate to the Interfaith Alliance of Iowa Action Fund, you're a champion of justice. You're a champion for Planned Parenthood. You're a champion for One Iowa. You're a champion for basic human rights.
Yeah, so please join us, support the Interfaith Alliance of Iowa Action Fund. It is irreplaceable up at the Capitol, and we hope to see you there when it's finally safe.
Oh, I can't wait for that day.
Thank you, Mary Jane, Melissa, Jamie, and Keenan. I know I can speak for all of us at Interfaith Alliance of Iowa Action Fund that we are so proud to stand with you, and we are so thankful for your incredible work for your partnership, and for your voices tonight. My name is Bridget Fagan-Reedburn, and I'm the Director of Development and Community Engagement with the Interfaith Alliance of Iowa Action. And I want to thank everyone who is watching tonight. Your support of our advocacy efforts means so much to us. Like Jackie said, this legislative session is not normal, but I do feel so much better knowing there are hundreds of Interfaith Alliance of Iowa Action supporters who have been taking action in so many different ways to fight for an Iowa that works for all people. Because of you, our awesome supporters, we've raised nearly $40,000, which goes right to work to support that state legislative work. I know you've heard it a few times tonight, but if you haven't gotten a chance, I encourage you to make a donation tonight. And a great way to have a lasting impact is to sign up as a monthly donor. And that's how I give to the Interfaith Alliance of Iowa. And in honor of our 25th anniversary, if you sign up for $25 or more a month, we will send you a tumbler in the mail. And if you're near us, we might even drop it off at your house. So please consider signing up tonight. Thank you again for your support and all you do for the Interfaith Alliance of Iowa Action Fund. Jackie and Connie, I'm going to turn things back over to you.
Great, thank you. And again, these tumblers, I don't know, but mine's empty. So the party's going pretty well, right, Connie? Okay.
It's awesome.
So a couple of things I want to reflect on. A great example of collaboration is when we share what's happening in the community, even when it's not an Interfaith Alliance event. And there's a really exciting event coming up on Wednesday. So this Wednesday at 6 p.m. And it's hosted by Planned Parenthood, which is one of the partner organizations we heard from. It's called the People's Hearing. And I encourage you to take a look and think about participating in the People's Hearing, which is taking place on Wednesday, because Connie can't do her work. The Interfaith Alliance can't do their work without strong collaboration and having good partners. So it's now my opportunity to say thank you. We want to make sure to say thank you to all of the sponsors. We couldn't do this without you. And so really, thank you for digging into your wallets. And it occurred to me that I have not donated yet, and I have a tumbler, so I will be donating my recurring donation after this because I want to keep these. I want to make sure to also ask all of you to use your voice. And Connie, as I think about wrapping up, I have two questions for you. The first one is, and we didn't practice this one, so this will be interesting. What's your fight song? So like I think about, I don't know about you, but when I'm going in to do something and I'm trying to get myself psyched up, I have a song. And my song is Right Now by Van Halen. When you're thinking about, waking up and getting ready and getting out the State House, what's your fight song?
That's a really hard one. There are so many good social justice songs, and I'm a child of the 60s and 70s, so I tend to go back to the old ones. But anything that really rise up and anything that really kind of gets that message out of using your voice and being active and being engaged. And so I don't know that I have a particular one. Sorry.
That's okay. It's great. And
yeah.
Hey, for people on the chat, if you have a fight song, share it with us, because I just think it's fun to learn a little bit about what motivates you. But seriously, Connie, as you think about what motivates you each and every day, and what you wake up, you get out of bed and you're ready to go after it at the State House. What's your why? Inspire us as we wind down, and I'll turn it over to you for the concluding remarks.
Yeah, my why is that my faith and my family instilled in me that I have a purpose, and I have a reason to be doing this work, and that it is really my my honor and my responsibility to do the work. I do this work for people who have been harmed and should not be harmed. I do this work for my children who are adults, and I do this work for your children. And I do this work because I know that we can be a better society. I know that we can be a better state. I know that we can be better communities for all of the people in the state. And so I do this work for other people, and because my faith compels me to do it. And that's where that's where that intersection of faith and politics comes together for me. And it's just such critical work. Jackie Norris, thank you so much for helping us to host this amazing celebration. It's been really fun. Did you have a good time?
I did. Did you see my confetti? I've been practicing a confetti toss. So, yay.
I am so grateful to you, and I am so grateful to everybody that is watching, as Jackie said, to the sponsors and the donors that gave before tonight's event, and those who have given during the event. You are so critical to the work of the organization and making sure that we have a strong voice at the State House. I want to thank our advocates who are with us each and every day, and taking the information that we give to you and contacting legislators, whether it's your own legislator, whether it's leadership, whether it's committee members. We just so appreciate that you take the time to do that, and it's just so important. And I want to thank our champions of justice. You all are rock stars, all of you. And I am grateful for your partnership at the State House, whether you are a legislator like Representative Ross Smith or the numerous advocates that we highlighted tonight. Thank you for all that you do, and thank you for always working with us. I want to also thank the behind the scenes folks. So John Noble, who is our tech support, and Kristen Clark from our office, who is our social media guru and all things administration. And I want to thank our board of Interfaith Alliance of Iowa Action Fund and the Interfaith Alliance of Iowa. You all have always supported this organization, and I could not ask for better people than the board members that we have always had with this organization. So with that, thank you for joining us. Thank you for being part of this work. And until I see you again, stay safe, wear a mask, and take care.